Dennis Lloyd Martin was just 6 years old when he suddenly went missing on June 14, 1969 in the Great Smoky Mountains on a camping trip. In the decades since, there has been no trace of Dennis. Not a clue, piece of clothing, or even footprint. Dennis Martin was a boy with curly brown hair and a happy smile. The red T-shirt tucked into his green hiking shorts made it easy for the grown-ups in his group to see him run along Spence Field in the Great Smoky Mountains National Park. His dash from the bright sunlight into the dark brush afternoon of June 14, 1969, was the last time Dennis Lloyd Martin, Denny to his family and friends, was ever seen. Dennis Martin's case was one of the first missing persons cases that really struck a chord with me. Not only was the case saddening, but it just didn't make sense and there seems to be no plausible explanation. This case has tons of theories, and no one can seem to agree on just one. It was Father's Day, and the Martin family had a long-established tradition of going camping in the national park. It was in the late afternoon, and Dennis and his friends were playing hide and seek and decided to each take their own spots to hide. The parents watched as the three boys, playfully pranking their parents, went their own ways to sneak behind the bushes to perform a sneak attack, not too far from their parents. When Dennis never performed his scare attack with the other two boys, William, his father, got worried and decided to go look for him. When they made a plan to prank the parents, however, William Martin had an idea about their plan. When the family started searching for them, the older boys jumped out and laughed, but Dennis did not appear with him. Douglas became upset, and the family yelled his name, Dennis. William Martin suspected that something wrong had been done, so he called him, but he did not say anything since he was not there. So, they started searching for him in the nearby forest, and William walked miles of trails while calling his name on the road. They were worried, and without communicating with the radio station, they searched for him. Suddenly, a plan came up through William Martin's mind, and he said to his father, Clyde, to hike 9 miles to the Cades Cove Ranger Station for help. However, the whole day passed in his search, but he had not found any clue. The night emerged, and hopes of seeing him again started vanishing. The family star is losing hope of finding him. More importantly, after 2 days of Martin's disappearance, the storm came, which would have even vanished his footprints of Dennis. This hope also faded. The next day, the National Park Service put together a crew of 30 searches to find him, and the number voluntarily increased to 240. The entire country took part in searching for a 6-year-old boy. All came outside of the park for Dennis Martin, including park rangers, college students, firefighters, Boy Scouts, police, and 60 Green Berets. However, the national park has not given any direction to people to find Martin, but all rushed into the park to look for evidence. Search for Dennis continued, day after day, without any optimistic hope for Dennis Martin. The national park used helicopters and planes to search for him from a bird's view, but for no gain. The fact is that everything had been experienced and used. Every source was utilized in his search but had never found any clue of disappearance. After 5 days of his disappearance, on the 20th of June 1969, almost 800 people participated in the search, including their National Guard, U.S. Coast Guard, and the National Park Service members. On the following day, the search efforts by the community and the national park reached a peak, and nearly 1,400 searchers participated. People participated immensely in finding him, and the national park has helped massively and cooperated with the family during the entire scenario. They tried their best to find a little boy and ease the family, but unfortunately, destiny never came into their hands, so they could not find him. Everyone got disappointed, and the support from the national park was highly laudable. William Martin was very disappointed and worried about his son, who was very close to him since he was the youngest child in the home. The family offered $5,000 for his finding, and people tried their best but failed to give any evidence or clue about his disappearance. After the disappearance, the family received many calls from psychics, and they were asked about the entire scenario that had happened to their son. As a result, more than a half-century has been passed, but no clue has been found. However, some suggest that Dennis Martin was being victimized by a more vicious attack by cannibalistic feral humans who lived undetected in the national park, and this can be the only reason for his disappearance, and without finding any clue or evidence, because they used to live on a very safe side and away from the naked eye. A witness relatively nearby to the Martins' campsite claimed to have heard a child screaming around the time Dennis disappeared, but officials on the scene didn't believe. During the investigation, searchers found a set of one shoe of footprints heading south from Spencer Field. Considering Dennis's brother and cousins initially headed south while attempting to scare their parents, this may have been a sign that Dennis turned around to try to follow them. Several years later, a man found a child-sized skeleton in the woods but didn't report it. A hunter's grim discovery could have put an end to the mystery of Dennis's whereabouts. An illegal ginseng hunter allegedly stumbled upon the skeletal remains of what appeared to be a small child, skull included. Afraid of being arrested for removing ginseng from the park, the man kept quiet about his findings for 16 years. By the time he informed the authorities and an official search was conducted, the remains had disappeared. With the amount of animal activity in the area, finding the location empty was disappointing but hardly surprising. National parks are beautiful for the same reason they are deadly. The Smokies' breathtaking mountains are filled with steep slopes, jagged rocks, and deep crevices. If Dennis got lost, he could have easily fallen into a hole covered by thickets of laurel and never climbed out. Thirst, hunger, or even a tumble into a turbulent creek could have claimed the small child's life. Unfortunately, the difficult terrain wasn't even the most dangerous threat Dennis had to navigate. The mystery of Dennis Martin's disappearance will likely never be solved, despite the massive effort to find the missing boy. Rescuers across the globe still use Dennis Martin's disappearance as a training exercise. The National Park Service overhauled its search and rescue procedures in the wake of the case, and the lessons learned have saved lives for the past 50 years by Jordan's estimate. Searchers in the Smokies have failed to find only 4 other missing people since. Over the years, a series of myths, rumors and theories have sprung up around the disappearance of Dennis Martin, ranging from the plausible to the ridiculous. It should be noted that none of these theories are espoused directly by officials or the Martin family, since Dennis disappeared, and people still debate the cause. Whether Dennis fell prey to a bear, was kidnapped, or died of exposure. The reality is that the cause of his disappearance will likely never be known.